Alright y'all, welcome back to Combat Arms channel. Now in today's video we're talking about a different country than we've talked about previously. I'm talking about the Canadian Armed Forces. Now speaking truthfully, I don't have a whole lot of exposure with the Canadian Armed Forces. I haven't really worked with them at all, especially their infantry. I don't really know a whole lot about them. I'm trying to go into this video doing very minimal research. But yeah, if y'all aren't familiar with my videos, I have served 5 years in the Marine Corps Infantry and then transitioned over to Army Infantry. So I'm sort of able to see what those two sides are like and sort of compare what different militaries are like compared to what I've seen. So again, I don't really know a whole lot about the Canadian Armed Forces, but I'm definitely willing to check it out. We'll see if they're the real deal. This video is about their basic military qualification course. Now, it's not necessarily infantry training or anything like that, so I'm going to try and go into it with an open mind, and yeah, we'll see what we think.
It's a 14-week journey to a new career and a new way of life. 3+ demanding months of military education and physical challenges. New skills, new friends, and proud traditions summed up in just 3 letters: BMQ.
Whether you choose to serve in the Army, Navy, or Air Force, every man and woman who joins the Canadian Forces will go through Basic Military Qualification, or BMQ, at the Leadership and Recruit School in historic Saint-Jean, Quebec.
Whether you're joining as an infantry soldier or a musician, an avionics technician or a cook, it all starts here. This is
Okay, so I would already disagree with some of the stuff that they do here. If you're having people go to the Air Force, the Navy, and the Army, I think it's very strange for them to all try and go to one course. It's called the Military Qualification course, so I'm not sure if there's advanced follow-on training that they would do specifically for the Navy or the Air Force, but there's definitely different facets when you're talking about the Navy and the Air Force and the Army. The Army, you need more combat-focused stuff because you're going to be closer to the front lines than you are in the Navy, generally speaking. And the Air Force will be focused more on academics, more so than combat training. Again, this is very broad. Every branch does some sort of general like combat training, but for every branch to do all of their training in this one course seems a little bit strange. But I don't like how they're doing this cheery music in the background. It's kind of throwing off the vibe. But yeah, we'll take a look a little bit further and see how the training actually looks.
where you'll develop and demonstrate the vigor, strength, and stamina you'll need to be an effective member of your team.
It is very hard. Yes, you do things that you never thought possible in the world that you would be able to do, but you do it and you get through the day, and that's it.
BMQ isn't easy, but your instructors will inspire you and provide mentorship and coaching to help you achieve each milestone and break through limits you never thought you'd reach. You'll learn to overcome your weaknesses and build on your strengths.
Like that.
I had no idea what I was getting into.
Pretty challenging in the beginning, but then once you get going and going, it gets the whole body going. It's awesome.
Every step of the way, you'll be following generations of Canadians who have accepted the challenge and served with pride in one of the world's elite military forces.
1, 2, 3, 1.
Again, I can't really speak for how elite they are. I haven't really worked with the Canadian Armed Forces, but from what I've seen, this looks like very, very basic military stuff. You know, you do obstacle courses, you do team building, stuff like that. So it's nothing new. This is definitely more akin to what you'd see in some sort of Army basic training, but not really what you would see with Army infantry training. That would be a little bit more intense. Again, I don't know if they have any follow-on training after this, but that's just from what I'm seeing. Yeah, I'm not going to try and compare necessarily everything to the Marine Corps in general, just because I know the Marine Corps just does things very, very strange. They kind of just do their own thing. So this is definitely more of what I've seen in the U.S. Army.
In Saint-Jean, you'll join other recruits in the Megaplex, a self-contained dormitory, gym, cafeteria, and school complex. You'll be outfitted with your basic military kit: uniforms, boots, helmet, rucksack, bedding, and pretty much everything else you'll need here, including your personal firearm.
Early in your training, you will have to meet the force's minimum standard for push-ups, sit-ups, hand grip strength, and aerobic fitness. So it's a great idea to start watching your weight, quitting smoking, and ramping up your workouts now before you head to BMQ. Every kilometer and kilogram you rack up today will make BMQ just that much easier.
During BMQ, you'll be taught the core values of the Canadian Forces: courage, integrity, loyalty, and duty, as well as the basics of military life, standards of dress, discipline, and conduct, and the ethical codes of a modern military in a multicultural country that respects diversity and human rights.
You'll wear your uniform at all times, and visitors will only be allowed on weekends and holidays after the first 5 weeks.
Weekends and holidays, they can have visitors. Okay, yeah, it's different. In Marine Corps boot camp, you use the phone when you get to Paris Island, but then after that, there's nothing. I can't really say so much with Army basic training, but I don't think you have that same level of access. At least, especially having visitors is probably a no-go for sure. But yeah, the background music is really killing it for me. You can definitely tell, because this is the Canadian Armed Forces YouTube channel. This is definitely for like parents and just people who are just trying to get a little bit of information. So it's definitely going to be focused and tailored more towards civilians and them just being comfortable with their son or daughter joining, which is good and bad, but it's a little too cheery for me. At least the music is.
You'll be assigned to a platoon, a group of 60 recruits who'll be your teammates throughout your basic training experience. In fact, teamwork may be the most important lesson you'll take away from Saint-Jean.
You have to work together, because if you are just caring about yourself, you're not going anywhere. Teamwork is a huge thing, and my platoon has it. It's working.
You'll do everything together, from eating your meals together at the cafeteria to sharing responsibility for your common living quarters.
We probably spend at least a few hours a day just cleaning our own cubicles, our rifles, our boots, everything else.
Your daily routine consists of early mornings, starting with a 5 a.m. wake-up call, long active days, and late nights, maintaining your personal equipment and living quarters, and getting ready for...
All right, so in Marine Corps boot camp, we did have our rifles next to our beds, but it was just a big open bay. There was no commodities whatsoever. It was pretty miserable living conditions. So what they're in right now looks very, very nice compared to what I've seen. So there's that. At least they're getting taken care of. Now, yeah, that's going to be a big no-no, doing weapons maintenance and whatnot when you're not supervised. And that's normally because you don't want someone doing anything unsafe, but people who don't really know what they're doing with their weapon can potentially lose something, put it in the wrong place. I don't know, it's weird to see. I guess they just have a little bit more trust in them. But their equipment looks interesting so far. Their boots look like miserable, though. I would not want to do a whole lot in those boots, especially any sort of physical activity. It'd probably tear your feet up a lot. And their helmets they look pretty old school. I think this video was made in 2014. I'm not sure if they have any upgraded stuff. And it looks like they have looks like an M16 with an Elkin optic. So that's an interesting setup. So it's cool to sort of see the small differences here and there as well.
For the next day's challenge.
We're getting ready for our inspection. So we have to lay out our rifle, all our gear, boots, tack vest. This gets inspected, pretty much everything.
Else is 00110, ready for your inspection, Master Corporal.
Staying right there.
Even day, it's even boots.
Who's the Canadian Forces Chief Warrant Officer?
Let's go, give me 10 push-ups.
50.
It's good, it's getting better.
Thank you, Master Corporal.
At the core of your BMQ experience is physical conditioning.
Physical training at BMQ takes many different forms, each one designed for the real-world demands you'll meet during your career. You'll meet the basic military swim standard, and you'll learn to conquer the obstacle course.
Go, 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 go! Keep going, keep going. Let's go, don't waste time! Get through that course, let's go, let's go! Bob, run, run! Ease up! Let's go, let's go!
hardest part would be that 6-foot jump over the wall. Yeah, pretty tough. It took me about 10, maybe 11 tries, but I still didn't make it. I'm gonna work hard on it. It'll be awesome.
You'll do a lot of running, starting with.
He's pretty optimistic. I'll give him that. I was never in that high spirits when I was going through training. So, I mean, it's cool that he's enjoying himself. But the obstacle course looks pretty standard. Some of this stuff, when you're the whole running through the tires thing, the military shouldn't really be doing that, especially when you're wearing kit and you have a rifle. You will never utilize that anywhere. If you can think of a good scenario where that would be helpful to train, running your feet through tires like that with all your equipment, definitely let me know, because I can't think of anything. But yeah, they're doing a whole lot of running in those boots, and you know their feet are definitely getting messed up. I doubt they get really nice socks as well, so that must be pretty brutal on the feet, pretty brutal on the shins as well.
The 3-kilometer run and gradually increasing the distance until you build up your endurance.
It was really fast paced, so quicker than I thought. So it was hurt the legs a bit, but it was fun.
There's also a lot of marching. As the weeks progress, you'll take part in longer and longer marches that will range up to 13 kilometers with a full rucksack and combat gear.
When you're doing it, you feel like you want to give up. Today, I didn't give up. I took longer than everybody else, but I still did it.
That's how it's done.
It takes a lot more than muscles to make a successful soldier, sailor, or Air Force member.
When you're ready.
You'll be trained in the safe handling and proper use of military weapons, the basics of cross-country navigation, patrolling and reconnaissance.
That was not patrolling. I'm just going to go ahead and stop that right there. That was not patrolling. That was people walking like 2 feet away from each other, just doing a little walk. Okay, so, I mean, I get it. A lot of the stuff, there's definitely nuances to how you do it in the U.S. military and any other military, but there's just fundamentals that you can't just get rid of. And dispersion during patrolling is a big one, unless you want your entire platoon wiped away really quickly. So that was a big pet peeve. And they're doing stuff like you see them a lot doing like shoveling rocks and whatnot. I don't really think you need to shovel to get better at, if you need to take a fighting position, that's fine. Yeah, you'll get practice doing fighting positions by digging fighting positions, but it's just digging rocks isn't really a good simulation. It's kind of just a cheap way of saying that you prepared someone for doing something like this. If you do normal conditioning and solid physical training, you don't need to be doing stuff that specific, where you're shoveling rocks. You can dig fighting positions, that's fine. You'll get the good repetitions of doing fighting positions, but digging rocks and whatnot is a little strange. But yeah, they're doing basic stuff. You can see they're doing land navigation, so that is a very good skill to have. Even people now in the U.S. Marine Corps and the Army, they aren't as proficient with land navigation as they probably have been back in the day, just because you have GPS and whatnot. So it's a good skill to have. It's definitely a perishable one. So we'll continue. We got about a minute and a half left. So
First aid, offensive and defensive operations, and how to survive in the field, even under extreme conditions.
The hardest thing I've done is just like all the physical training, staying awake, doing duties. We have like section attacks.
Lower your weapon.
It's very physically and mentally draining.
Sir, you need to leave now.
Now that it's over, I feel great.
Food, shower, and bed. That's it. Those are the only things I'm thinking about right now.
Basic military qualification is a 14-week life-changing experience that will transform you from civilian to soldier.
It's mentally hard, physically hard, but once you get through it, it feels great. It's a great accomplishment.
I've become a lot more self-reliant, more responsible, and grown up a lot.
I have changed drastically. I have a lot more confidence in myself. I know that if I put my mind to something, I could achieve it.
Physically and emotionally, it may be the toughest thing you've ever done in your life. But one thing is certain, It will make you physically stronger, mentally sharper, and more confident than you've ever been before. Pumped for a great career in the Canadian Forces. Fit, strong, and ready to serve.
All right, so yeah, I mean, again, I can't really compare this experience too much with anything I've gone through. You know, the two militaries are different. No one military is going to be, you know, that closely related or similar to another. So I can't really go too in depth. And again, I don't know anyone in the Canadian Armed Forces, so I can't give firsthand experience. But if y'all have any experience with the Canadian Armed Forces, or if you're in the Canadian Armed Forces and you have any recommendations for any videos or any specific units to check out, definitely let me know, because I'd like to see what sort of advanced training you know, the Canadian Armed Forces actually does. See what sort of specialized units there are, like you know, special forces and everything. So it'd be cool to check out those. It's a basic military qualification course. Again, I wouldn't necessarily agree to put everyone in different branches like Air Force, Army, Navy in the same qualification course or basic training. I'm not sure if this is what that's supposed to be, but I just don't agree with that. And yeah, their equipment looks a little bit outdated. I'm not sure if this video is just old or if the Canadian military just doesn't dump a bunch of money like the U.S. government does with our armed forces. But their gas masks were a little bit older. Their boots are older. You can see when they were rappelling, they didn't have like a normal static Kernmantle rope, which is pretty much what most countries would use for rappelling. So they probably just divert the money in different places in the military. But I do agree that you should have a pretty decent amount of money going into the basic training. And I mean, they had some good scenarios going. So I mean, there is training going on. They were doing basic stuff, basic combat skills and whatnot. So the training is there. Again, I don't know how in depth it can be and how effective it can be unless I talk to someone firsthand. So if y'all have any recommendations for that, please let me know. And if you liked the video, consider hitting the like button, consider subscribing, especially if you're in the Canadian Armed Forces. It's definitely cool to get all these people from different militaries and different experience in the military talking in the comments section. And it's cool to see what y'all think about other militaries that I'm checking out. So definitely keep those recommendations coming. Definitely keep commenting. And yeah, that's it for this video. So I will see y'all in the next one.